You know that feeling, right? You're swimming in information, trying to grasp complex ideas, and you just want someone to cut through it. Well, that's what we're doing today.
Yeah, boiling it down.
Exactly. We're diving deep into a really fascinating socio-economic vision. It starts with making sure everyone's basic needs are met. Everyone.
A solid foundation.
And then it gets into how surplus wealth, the extra stuff, gets distributed based on, well, merit.
It's a structure really aimed at societal well-being, looking after everyone, but also driving progress.
We've been looking at some texts that really outline this. They offer a detailed perspective, don't they?
They do. Very specific principles and arguments for why this approach could work. A real alternative model.
Right. So our mission for you today: unpack these core ideas. How do you guarantee that minimum standard of living without just, dole-outs?
Through work.
And then this is key. How do you reward merit? How do you incentivize people to really contribute? It's definitely a thought-provoking alternative.
It is. Very different from standard models.
Okay, let's get into it. Starting with that foundation, guaranteeing the minimum requirements.
Yeah, the core principle is stated pretty clearly. The minimum requirements of an age should be guaranteed to all.
And what do they mean by minimum requirements?
The texts list them out. Food, clothing, medical treatment, housing, and education. Basic stuff.
But seen as fundamental rights, yeah. Not things you might get if you're lucky.
Exactly. Basic rights. And what's interesting is that these aren't set in stone.
Ah, right. They change with the times.
Precisely. They use that analogy maybe once a bicycle was enough, But later, maybe you need something faster, like an airplane for certain roles in society. It evolves.
So the standard itself adapts. That's crucial. What we consider basic isn't fixed.
Right, which means the system has to be flexible. But maybe the most fundamental part is how you guarantee this.
Okay.
The sources are very firm.
Yeah.
It has to be through 10% guaranteed employment. Not welfare, not dole-outs.
So work is central. It's not about handouts.
No. The idea is empowerment through work, dignity, and also preventing economic exploitation. You earn your keep. You contribute.
That makes sense. It connects to their definition of local people, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. And local here isn't about where you were born or your background. It's about economic interest.
How so?
It's defined as someone who has merged their individual socio-economic interests with the local unit.
Yeah.
Basically, do you invest your economic life working, spending primarily in that community?
I see. So if you earn money here but spend it all elsewhere, you're not really local in this economic sense.
That's the idea. And prioritizing employment for these local people is meant to stop wealth just draining out of the community.
Keep the economic engine running locally.
Okay. And they even suggest a short-term strategy for this full employment.
Oh, yeah.
Focusing on labor-intensive industries, things that meet those collective minimum needs we talked about.
Like food and clothing production.
Exactly. They give the example of agrico and agro industries in a place like North Bihar. Use a local workforce to produce local necessities.
Makes sense. Meet needs, create jobs. Simple but effective, potentially. Is there a longer-term picture, too?
Oh, yes. The long-term vision is more complex, a three-tiered economy.
3 tiers?
Yeah. Small private businesses, medium-sized cooperatives, and then key industries under governmental control.
Okay.
The goals are broad. Self-reliance, using local resources wisely, fair distribution, decentralizing economic power, and always raising the overall standard of living.
And they even mentioned reducing working hours.
As productivity goes up with technology. That's part of the long-term vision for improving quality of life.
Okay, so that's the foundation. Guaranteed minimums through local employment. Now let's shift to that other really interesting piece, distributing the surplus based on merit.
Right. Once everyone's basic needs are met through that employment system,
The essentials are covered.
then the principle is the surplus wealth should be distributed among meritorious people according to the degree of their merit.
And the why behind that.
It's multifaceted.
Yeah.
To recognize and reward significant contributions, to give meritorious people more scope, more resources to serve society even better.
And motivation, I suppose.
And motivation, yes, to encourage excellence.
They had that example, didn't they? The doctor and the vehicle.
Yeah, linking back to the evolving minimums. If a bicycle is the basic standard for everyone, a doctor, whose merit is serving the community's health, might need a motor vehicle to do their job effectively over a wider area. That vehicle is part of the surplus, distributed based on merit and need for societal contribution.
So it's not just a perk, it's functional.
It's framed as functional, yes, which leads to this idea of maximum amenities for meritorious people.
Okay, but there's a limit, right?
Absolutely. The key phrase is that providing these extra amenities should not go against the common interest. No creating huge divides that hurt society overall.
It's a balancing act then. Reward merit, but maintain social cohesion.
Exactly. And importantly, the goal isn't just to give more to the meritorious. It's also to constantly increase the maximum amenities available to everyone.
So lifting the general standard too.
Yes. Reduce the gap. Maybe not eliminate it entirely, but constantly narrow it.
Like the motorbike car bicycle example.
Precisely. If the meritorious person gets a car, the goal isn't everyone gets a car tomorrow. Maybe it's helping more people move from bikes to motorbikes first.
A gradual leveling up.
A gradual balanced adjustment, improving life for all while still recognizing different levels of contribution.
And this ties into the idea of amenities fulfilling more than just basic physical needs.
Right. They talk about psychic longings too, things that make life easier, more comfortable, intellectually stimulating, not just survival.
And these evolve too, like the minimums.
Definitely. Think about drinking water from a well to maybe a communal tap to piped water in every home. That's an evolving amenity. Or even smaller things like free school snacks or tea on a train, amenities beyond bare necessity that improve well-being.
So it's a constant drive for better quality of life for everyone with extra recognition for contribution, but always mindful of the common good.
That seems to be the core idea.
Now, how does this compare to other systems? The sources critique some existing models, don't they?
They do. They're critical of what they call subordinated cooperation.
Meaning?
Hierarchical systems where cooperation isn't really on equal footing, potentially leading to exploitation. They also criticize the commune system.
Why is that?
They argue it suppresses individual initiative, reduces personal responsibility, and ultimately lowers production.
So what do they advocate instead?
A cooperative system based on coordinated cooperation.
Coordinated, not subordinated. What's the difference in practice?
Coordinated implies more equity, collaboration between equals, or at least with less inherent power imbalance. Shared purpose, mutual benefit. That's the ideal presented.
And within this cooperative model, there's that principle about production.
Yes. Production based on consumption, not profit, especially in the decentralized economy.
That sounds like a fundamental shift.
It is. The idea is produce what the local community actually needs and will consume, rather than just chasing the highest profit margin wherever it might be.
And the benefit.
More local economic stability, they argue. Production is directly linked to local needs. And it should boost local purchasing power because you're employing local people to make things local people need.
It loops back to that local control idea again.
Constantly. Yeah. Local control of resources, prioritizing local people defined by economic interest, remember, in local businesses.
To prevent exploitation by outsiders.
Exactly. Keep the benefits local.
And they even mention blocking imports.
Yeah, a policy of avoiding importing finished goods if they can be produced locally to protect those local industries and jobs.
The salt example under British rule in India.
A powerful illustration, yeah. Importing something easily made locally undermined the domestic economy, caused unemployment, drained wealth. So, local production first where feasible.
And planning happens locally, too. Block-level planning.
Right. Planning focused on the welfare of that specific local area, that block.
What factors do they consider?
Cost of production, productivity, collective needs, and crucially purchasing capacity.
Not just per capita income.
No, they explicitly say increasing purchasing capacity is the better measure of real economic progress for the people. Can people actually afford what they need and want?
Okay. That covers a lot of the structure. What about the underlying philosophy? There were a couple of key points.
A very foundational one is that the entire wealth of the universe is the common patrimony of all.
Common patrimony. That implies shared ownership, doesn't it?
It does. A shared inheritance, suggesting a collective right to resources and a responsibility to ensure everyone's needs are met.
And they also touched on human desires.
Yeah, the idea that our longings, especially psychic and spiritual ones, are potentially limitless, always evolving, always seeking more, contrasting maybe physical thirst, which can be quenched, with these deeper longings.
So, to try and wrap this up, what we've looked at is a really holistic vision.
I think so.
It starts with security basic needs met through guaranteed work. Then it recognizes contribution merit by distributing surplus wealth. But it's always aiming to lift everyone's quality of life.
And it's all underpinned by local empowerment and cooperation.
What strikes me is the interconnectedness. Guaranteeing the minimums isn't the end goal, it's the launch pad.
Right. It empowers people to then contribute more. And rewarding the merit that arises from that contribution helps drive further progress.
Progress that then ideally benefits everyone by raising the general standard of amenities again. It's a cycle.
A cycle aiming for balance between individual contribution and collective well-being.
Now, obviously, this is one specific perspective we've explored today, a framework from these particular sources.
Absolutely. There are many economic philosophies out there, and the practicalities of implementing something like this are, well, complex.
Definitely something listeners might want to explore further themselves. Consider the challenges, the critiques.
Which leaves us with a final thought, perhaps, for you, the listener, to chew on.
Go on.
In a world really struggling with inequality, with ensuring even basic survival for so many, what do you think are the essential ingredients? What's truly needed to build a society that is both just and prosperous for absolutely everyone?